everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Write, Publish, Connect, where we talk all things authors, the indie publishing scene. And today I have with me Sharissa Bradley, founder of Project Seed Money. And the theme we're going to be exploring today is amplifying, supporting and amplifying female authors and their voices in the publishing space. Let me first start out by telling you a little bit about who Sharissa is. She is the owner of Project Seed Money, which provides female authors with the resources and guidance that they need to navigate the publishing industry. She's herself is a published author and founder of 5-2 Press, and she's committed overall to removing the gatekeeping barriers and amplifying female voices within the literary community. Welcome to the show, Sharissa.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm honored to be a guest.
Thanks for being on with us. And let's get right into it. So, there has been an increased level of awareness, I find, for marginalized voices and being more inclusive of them in the publishing space. Do you feel, and it's just a question, do you feel that we female authors still need that type of support?
It is true that I think that we are growing and you're seeing the statistics in the publishing world kind of equaling out where there are more women who are executives in the publishing industry, working behind the scenes, and more female authors overall. However, I do feel that it's more challenging for women to actually get their messaging out there. So I say that, and I mean more challenging to get the funding, more challenging to set aside the time, more challenging to actually do the work it takes to become a published female author. And that's just not to say that the opportunities aren't out there. I just feel that the opportunities and the connections are still challenging for females in the industry.
So this is a nice segue into Project Seed Money. And tell us a little bit about how did you start Project Seed Money? Because it really is a very unique initiative, I find. So tell us a little bit about the story behind that.
Thank you so much for asking. This is one of my favorite stories to share because it has been such a very bumpy road to get to where we are now. Originally, Project Seed Money started out in 2020 by three best friends, and they wanted to fund women in the work space. So giving out $5,000 grants monthly for women who are doing entrepreneurial work and trying to enter into the world of having their own business. When that didn't quite take off, they didn't really want to see it just dead in the water. So they reached out to me and asked if I would be willing to take it over and do something a little different with it, in which time I did change it to be grants for female authors. Now, after trying to do that for about a year, I realized it really wasn't in alignment with my values to lock people out of the community. And what I mean when I say that is just awarding only one female meant that other women who were needing the support and needing that help were not going to get that. They were going to be pushed out another month or whatever that may be. So I took some time to reflect on that and ended up coming up with the idea of a community platform where everybody wins. Again, there's no gatekeeping now because I'm not financially benefiting from female authors. I'm not gaining from them. So I gave myself the opportunity to then teach everyone equally. So now we have a directory platform that is women, like specifically women initiative. Like we want to make sure that women are publishing. So I have myself talk to each one of these people that are offering their services in our directory to make sure that their values are in alignment so that if you are connecting with one of those people in the directory, you know that you're going to get the support and they already want you to win because I wouldn't put them there if they didn't want that. There's also quarterly grant writing classes. So I teach you how to write grants, how to find them. I also have a resources section on the website, which is growing constantly, but these resources are like how to write a grant. And you just go right onto the website, click on it, it goes to a Google file. So you get to immediately print that. There are even things like how to have a social media content calendar, how to do your brand, how to have branding photos and colors and things that match with your book. So tons and tons of resources. Again, it's always free to the consumer. So if you are a female author and you're needing that support or like directory support or grant support. I always have a bulletin board on the homepage that is up to date with the current grants that are accepting applications. So there's lots of opportunities for learning. Again, you still have to put in the work, you still have to do that next step. But if you're looking for like really just curated for female authors support on the writing journey, whether that's funding or all the way from like starting an Instagram account to like marketing your book, that's all there for you for free.
So the angle here is not the priority is not so much on actually receiving direct funding. Is that correct? It's really more about giving women the resources that they need, correct?
That is true. We are really all about the resources and inspiration. We also have a weekly podcast where we bring on other female authors and industry professionals that are just there to inspire you. So, inspiration, resources, and connection.
And what would you say are the top three areas that, in your experience, women, female authors are really hungering for and really need?
I think really the biggest struggle, and I'm speaking mostly from my own experience, is the time management and understanding how do I fit into my life writing a book. So what I've tried to do with Project Seed Money is take a lot of the guesswork out, because if you're spending most of your time researching how to do all of these things, that's taking time away from actually writing. So if
Mhm.
you can spend your time writing and then trust that there are places that have the resources so you don't have to do the research, right? We've done it for you. And then actually being able to sit and do it. I think the time is the biggest issue. And then after we get past the time, it's then the money. How am I going to be able to pay for the services? And I think the biggest one that comes up right away is editing. So you've written a book that didn't cost you anything, and now all of a sudden you have this massive expense that comes in the form of editing. So at that point, maybe you're looking on my website for grants that are specific to being able to pay for editing.
Okay. So tell me a little bit more about grants, because in the traditional writing space, a lot of authors are aware of the grants that are available to them. Grants is that's not really a topic that comes up often in the indie publishing space. So let me first start by clarifying with you, are most of the authors you work with, or most of the authors that are in contact with Project Seed Money, are they tending to go the indie route, or is it a 50-50 split between traditional and indie?
Well, even if you're going with the traditional publishing, I will say that it doesn't cost as much, right? Because you're just writing your manuscript, but you do have to give them some polished, and you do have to find an agent, and it is going to take time and experience. And on the Project Seed Money website, on the resources page, there are actually proposal templates, because you will need to pitch an agent. And so you will still need to do some of these things. But I will say that primarily my clientele, the people that I'm working with, are the ones who are bootstrapping it. They're either self-publishing, they're going with a publishing assist company like yourself, or they're going with a hybrid publishing company where they are going to have to pay something around the lines of $10,000 to $15,000 once they've gotten that manuscript in that first draft format. So even if they are going the traditional route where they aren't going to need as much money to publish, because you're going to see the script kind of flipped. Sometimes you get a little bit of an advance, which does get paid back through your royalties over time. So read the fine print. And it may not cost you right up front, but in order to pitch an agent, you do need to have a polished proposal. And that may cost you money in education, learning how to do that, and also editing. That should really, really be two perfect chapters if you are pitching to an agent. So there are expenses that are involved, even in the traditional publishing route, where we see the expenses more upfront when we go with publishing assist companies and hybrid publishing companies. That's more the typical clientele, or self-publishing, all of which ends up costing about the same. Truly, if you run the numbers all the way through, if you self-publish, hybrid publish, or publishing assist, and you're getting all the things you really need out of it, it is still about that same nugget, $10,000 to $15,000. So you are still going to need, and that's just the prior costs prior to publishing. That does not include marketing costs. So when you're
Yes.
looking for grants that are like $10,000 to $25,000 for authors are really a good sweet spot. That's there, and they're out there. There, a lot of them are out there.
So yeah, so that leads me to the question of where are they and what types of grants are no, because really grants is just it's not really something on a lot of people's radar. So why don't you tell us a little bit more about the types of grants and typically what is required to be eligible for a grant?
That is such a good question. So grants are, they're not hiding, but they do take some research. And within that research, you also have to kind of look for some red flags because some grants will charge you and it kind of looks like on the surface like it's a money type reward, but what they actually are is like a hybrid or vanity press kind of in disguise.
Uh-huh.
So, oh, we'll pay you, but it's kind of like we're going to take your submission or we're going to publish your book. So it
Mhm.
can't be like previously published. So, really look for some red flags. And on the website, there are red flag resources as well, because I think that's tricky. You can always check the bulletin board, like I said at the beginning, because that's going to have vetted grants already up there. But what I do want to say, what I do want to say about this is that they are very niche. So in order to be eligible, like you asked, for a grant, you actually need to meet what they are asking. So there are nonfiction grants, there are fiction grants, there are first time writer grants, there are you've already had several books grants, and there are grants for people who are professional authors, meaning you make your money from being an author or a speaker, but then maybe COVID made it so that you couldn't go out and you couldn't speak and you couldn't sell your book. And so your book sales diminished. There are actually grants and funding opportunities for you specifically. So it is super, super niche. If you are a children's book writer, if you are a memoir writer, they really are very specific. So that is something to pay attention to, check the eligibility criteria. The grant windows are really small. And then there are a lot of sections that you need to be prepared to write about. So, what is the impact of your book? What is it going to do for the world? Because if someone's giving you money, they want to make sure that you personally know why you're writing that book. And so, have that in mind. Start thinking about those things. And on the website, there's like whole outlines of things that you could fill out ahead of time, sections that you could have ready to just copy and paste into multiple grant applications as you go.
So when you were saying the windows are really small, are you talking about turnaround times like deadlines? What are you referring to?
Yeah, so most grants are annual. You will see them come up every single year, but the window that they are open is like a month or less than a month. So
Okay.
you'll want to know your answers to their questions. They are almost always the same. Your bio, who you are, what the impact of your book is, a synopsis of your book, what you are going to use the money for. It has to be so specific. It has to be a budget. And when you are doing that budget, it would be really, really beneficial to reach out to editors, formatters, book cover designers, the hybrid publisher, the publishing support group that you want to go to, and get those real numbers. It's going to cost $10,000. Put that in your budget because they want to know that you know how you're going to spend the money. And those types of answers can just be sitting in a folder on your desktop, ready to be really truly copy and pasted because you want it to be professional, you want it to be polished. There are even editors that will edit your grant applications so that you can, yes, so that you can make sure that you're not misspelling things or weird typos. That's going to be the quickest way to just get dropped out of a grant application because if you were trying to be a writer and you're showing up not professional as a writer, it's not going to come across properly.
So that actually leads me to one of the questions. What are the top don'ts? Because I'm sure, especially for authors, exploring the grant option for the first time, I'm sure it's pretty easy to mess up. So what are your top two pieces of advice or three absolutely avoid committing this mistake?
I think number one, don't leave anything blank. Don't bother submitting an application if it's incomplete. If it's incomplete, it's just going to get tossed out. It's not worth your time or your money because some of these applications have a fee of 10 to 25, $30. So it's not worth your time if you're not going to completely complete the application. Number two, don't write so personally where you're just writing about yourself and what this would do for yourself because what grant they're not just giving you money for free. They want something from you. They want to know that you are going to go out into the community and you are going to shout their praises. So how is your book impacting the world, and also how does it support their values and their mission? Make sure you know enough about the company that you're applying for money from, that they're in alignment with your values, that you will feel good about shouting them from the rooftops when you win, and really just don't waste your time if it's not meshing, right? And then never apply for something that even if it's a little tiny bit iffy, like, oh, I'm in the fiction space and it's sort of fantasy, sort of romance. Just go to the exact genre that matches you, because they're gonna kick it out if it doesn't match perfectly with the eligibility. Um, so yeah, yes, go ahead.
And from what I know about grants, there's usually a particular timeline, right? It's not one of these things where you get a grant and it might be, oh, maybe 20 years later I'll come through on it, right? You have to be, no, but you have to be committed, no, to actually executing that plan.
Absolutely, absolutely. You are going to be required to share a timeline with them. So that's part of your application, is going to be, when do you see this book being published? And they do often have like very specific rules on how the money can be spent, how soon it needs to be spent, what things it needs to be spent on. So that needs to be pretty clear before you're even applying for the grants. What do you need the money for? What is it going to be used for? How long is it going to take you to do that? And you'll want to be as professional as you can, showing up, saying, I'm at this stage in my manuscript. It's going to take me 10 more months to get it edited and formatted. And on this day, I plan to publish. As an author, it would be beneficial for you to know those things anyways, to keep yourself accountable. So even just having that information would be helpful.
So because these windows are so small, I'm assuming you're recommending, and you've already alluded to this, that authors should really have a lot of these answers, if you will, ready in advance, right? So that, oh, this grant is now accepting applications. Let me just submit, right?
I absolutely think that that is necessary. I have a file on my computer dedicated to grants, and every time I apply for a grant, I apply for business grants, I apply for author grants. I'm constantly looking for that way to like keep myself going too. And I save every single response that I use. And that could come back into use for a lot of different things. And I also pre-write sections. So my bio as an author, my bio as a business owner, those things are written and they are ready to go, because you have never really know when someone's going to be like, oh, I need your bio and a headshot. And it comes up all the time. I need your bio and a headshot. Just have that kind of stuff ready and easily accessible, so that when something comes up, like on the Project Seed Money Instagram, we post, oh, there's a grant, but the deadline is tomorrow. And now you're not scrambling. You click right on the link from my Instagram story and you copy and you paste your answers in, and you did not miss the deadline, and now you have this opportunity for more money. So it can really benefit you. Yes.
And you were talking before about how there are editors out there with an expertise in assisting in preparing grant applications. What kind of a cost is associated with hiring an editor to help with grant writing?
I'm not really certain, because I've never used the service myself. Because typically your grant applications are like online. There are these like little boxes. You have like 300 words, and in my case, it's just sort of been like again, I have these sections pre-prepared for myself, and I copy and paste them in. Now, if you are writing a grant that's more of a scholastic type grant, maybe you're in grad school or you're in postdoctorate and you're looking for research money. Now, these grant applications are going to be more like 50 to 100 pages. And then in that case, you're going to end up with a per word cost from editors, or a time cost. So maybe it takes them a month, and then that could be anywhere from a couple $100 to upwards of $1,000, depending on how big because really at this point it's a manuscript, how big the manuscript is and how much work needs to be done on it. So it'll probably be a similar process of sending in a sample, getting back a quote, and then deciding on whether or not that person is the right match for you. But there are lots of opportunities like this. On my Project Seed Money directory page, there are specifically 2 authors in there that have said that they work with people who do grants. So that is something you can just go check out right away and easily like have those conversations, send out emails. Hey, do you edit grant applications? So yeah, and that could be an added expense, but once you have that one edited grant application, you can now save that and use that for every other grant application. So it becomes something that over time would pay for itself, even if it is an added expense at the beginning.
You're an author and you also run your own imprint, 52 Press. Just tell us briefly about your imprint.
Oh, thank you for asking. I do run an imprint 52 Press. We only publish educational memoirs, which is nonfiction, but it's specifically your life story, what you've learned, and then how other people can learn from you. So this can be anything from education to we've published tarot workbooks. We have like Wheel of the Year type books. And again, with that memoir theme kind of strung all throughout it.
Nice. And what is the business model for 52 Press?
So we take almost completed manuscripts and we charge a very, very small fee to help you publish. And then we manage your book for the rest of its life or as long as you keep it with us. So the unique model of 52 Press is that you get complete creative control over your manuscript. So they could go to someone like you and do all of these things, like all the step by step, and have complete control. And then they would bring that manuscript to us because they don't want to handle the management of it. And so that's where we would take over at that point. And for the most part, it's just people who have these like really brilliant ideas, but they don't have the desire to do anything else with it once it's out there. And so they just need that like lifetime support. And so we take a very, very small royalties. You keep all of your rights, and it's a very small fee to work with us. So it's kind of different in the sense of other hybrid publishers where they want to maintain the control over the book and decide the cover and the formatting and things like that. We take on people who are like creative geniuses, and this is the thing that they want to do for themselves. So it's slightly different, but it makes it more fun for me to get to work with somebody who has their own vision.
Nice, nice. So if you were to give female authors one bit of advice generally about writing, finding the time to write, publishing, getting their work out there, what would it be?
I would say if it is calling to you and the words are coming to you and the answer in your mind is that there's this thing that has to be written, then just keep taking little tiny baby steps until it makes sense. Sometimes the full picture isn't clear. Most of the time, the full picture isn't clear until we look back. But as we are moving forward with a vision and with a dream, there always are tiny little baby steps that we can take along the way. And even if it seems like there's nothing you can possibly do, I don't have the money, I don't have the time, I don't have the things, you can watch YouTube videos about self-publishing and the publishing process. And for myself, I watch videos at 2x. It only takes about maybe 5 minutes to learn a little new tidbit of information, which knowledge is power. You get that information, you get that courage, and then that helps you take that next little baby step. So even if the vision isn't clear, just take one little tiny baby step.
And on the theme of knowledge is power, where can people go to find out more info about you, about 52 Press, and of course about Project Seed Money?
Thank you. Anything that you would like to find about me is so easily accessible on any of the websites. So 52 Press is the number 5, the word 2, the word press.com, and Project Seed Money, all one word.com. They have every single link you could possibly want. You can find me on Instagram, you can find me on YouTube, you can find me on every podcasting platform, all under those same names. So I would love to connect with you if you're a female author and you're looking for support. Reach out because I could interview you on my channel. We can support you in our directory, and we love female authors.
Thank you so much, Sharissa. I think this was a really interesting conversation, very unique. You touched on some topics that I think are definitely under-discussed and underrepresented in the publishing space. So thank you so much for this rewarding conversation. Thanks so much.
It was my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.